Hey guys, so today we're just going to have a little bit of a chat about my plan to become financially independent. So if you've been on my channel for quite some time, you will know that I started this YouTube channel primarily to talk about my journey to financial independence and all the things that I'm learning along the way that are helping me to achieve financial peace and financial security. And I actually haven't done a video about my plan for financial independence since I started this channel. So in my very first video, I talked about why I started this channel. I talked about generally what my plan is and what I'm aiming for, which is financial independence. But I thought I should do an almost update video because it's been a year since I've made that video. My video quality is better now, thankfully. And so for anyone who is new to this channel, I just wanted to provide a bit of an update or a bit of an overview of what the actual plan is. So to start, if you don't know what financial independence or the FIRE movement is, I do have a lot of videos on this channel that talks about that. I will link the playlist down below so you can check that out to get a bit more information. But in short, essentially, it's the ability to live off a portion of your investments. So it means you build up an investment pot to a certain size and you would live off a small portion of that each year or each month. And so essentially I am aiming for financial independence for a few reasons. First of all, I really like the idea of being financially secure. And by being financially independent, it means that you know that your bills and stuff are going to be paid by your investments, by the interest that's being earned on your investments. And so that is really the ultimate financial security, knowing that if you were to lose your job or anything was to happen unexpectedly, you would still be okay. You could still survive and you could still afford to live. And so that is one of the biggest reasons why I want to be financially independent. The second reason is because I want to have more control over my life and my time. And, you know, generally speaking, most of us, the great vast majority of the population, are not financially independent. And that means we have to work, and sometimes we have to work in things we don't really want to do, in professions or jobs that we don't really like. But because we've got to pay the bills and because we have to put food on the table, we have to work. And financial independence just takes that element out of it, that having to work, and it's about choosing to work. And so those are a few of the reasons why I really want to be financially independent. And for me, I am currently 29, so I'm newly 29. And my goal is to be financially independent in my early 40s. So I've got a good 13, 14 years to go before I am planning to reach that goal. If I can get there quicker, then great. But that's what I'm aiming for essentially. And the type of financial independence that I'm aiming for is something called Barista FIRE. So there are different types of FIRE, and again, I speak about this in some of my videos that I have linked below in the description. But Barista FIRE is essentially your investments would pay for your essentials, so things such as your housing, your utilities, your food, your transport, basic clothing. It will cover all those essential things that you need to live and be comfortable and okay. And then you would continue working in some aspect to cover your leisurely expenses. So you don't fully retire. It's a kind of half retirement, you can say. And that is what I'm aiming for in my early to mid 40s, because realistically, I won't really want to fully retire when I'm in my 40s. I don't see that I would want to have no work to do at all. I think work is important, and if you're doing meaningful work, I think it can be a really rewarding and fulfilling thing to do in your life. So that's essentially what I'm aiming for in my early 40s, to have all my essentials covered by my investments, and then really to work to do the things that I enjoy, the luxuries of life, such as going on holiday or going out to eat or buying some nice clothes. So those types of things is what I would be working for. And of course, because all the essentials will be covered, I probably wouldn't really need to do a 5-day-a-week, 9-to-5 job. I may still decide to do it, but if I don't want to do it, then I won't have to. So in terms of how is it that I'm planning to achieve this? So I'm going to break down a few things that I'm implementing in my life from now in order to work towards that goal 10-ish years from now. But I also wanted to roughly touch on a few numbers just to give you an idea of what I'm aiming for. And sometimes numbers are just helpful to get an idea of when someone's talking about something, what does it actually mean? So for that Barista FIRE, as I said, in my early 40s, I've calculated that I would need a pot of around £465,000. And this is estimation. This could change because my expenses could go up and my expenses could also go down. There's so many circumstances that could happen between now and then. However, this is just an estimation. And that is an important thing to point out, that even though this is my goal, I'm fully aware that things may change along the way, and I'm fully open to being flexible as things change. And once I've reached that point, my goal would be to take out a portion of my investments each year to cover my essentials, as I spoke about earlier. And so if you are familiar with the FIRE movement, then you're probably familiar with the 4% rule. However, my goal is probably to withdraw maybe 5%. And before anyone decides to write a comment to say that's way too risky, I understand. It's personal preference and I have other plans as to why I'm doing that. But 5% is generally what I'm looking to withdraw from that pot when I reach that age. Maybe 43, 44, I would take out 5% each year and have it cover all my bills, essentially. But this whole withdrawal from that pot would be for a minimal amount of time. So if I was to reach this at 43 and start doing this plan at that age, then I would have to wait from 43 to 57, as of right now, until I could access my pension pot. So my pension pot is looking to be probably quite a bit larger than what my ISA pot would be. And again, there's a whole plan for that, but I won't talk about that in this video. So the ISA is bridging the gap essentially between the time that I can legally, I guess you could say, by law retire, which is, when I can access my SIP and my pension, and the time that I want to take some kind of retirement. So it's just bridging the gap, and that's what ISAs are really good for, because there's no restriction as to when you can access that money. So basically I would be withdrawing from that ISA for 12, 13, 14 years at a fairly high withdrawal rate, I guess you could say 5%. And then once I can access my SIP, my pension, that would drastically reduce to maybe 3% or 2%, because then I can start withdrawing 4% from my pension pot. So if any of this all sounds confusing, then I hope that as you watch more videos on my channel, it will all start to make sense, because I talk about a lot of these concepts in different videos in different ways. But I wanted to kind of put that out there to give you an idea of what my plan is. Again, it can fluctuate and it may not go exactly to plan, which is totally cool. Life happens. But as of right now, this is the plan I have and this is what I'm working towards. Now, in terms of the things that I am doing to reach this place of financial independence and to reach a place of financial security. So the first thing that I've started implementing in my life is to slash consumer debts. Now, it has taken me a good 3 years, I would say, actually, to really slash my consumer debts. And what it does is it allows you to focus on the future and not focus so much on the past, because the money that you receive, you can do things with for your future, as opposed to receiving your salary and half of it going towards debts. So that's the first thing that I've done. And, it's not just about getting your debts to zero. It's about figuring out the habits that caused you to get there in the first place and figuring out how to not get there again. The second thing that I am doing is really working on increasing my income and finding additional income streams. I wholeheartedly believe it's so important to not just rely on one income, but it's also just so much easier to reach your goal when you have multiple income streams in your life. And I think sometimes with the FIRE movement, an area that people criticize it a lot is because some people talk about FIRE and really they focus on slash in their expenses. It's like, cut that down, cut this down, cut that down, be frugal, be cheap, be whatever else. And I am not a frugal or cheap person, really. I guess I have frugal tips every once in a while that I do to save money, but generally my lifestyle is not a frugal lifestyle. I'm not really the cheapest person. I like to spend money. I like to go out and enjoy my life. So in terms of that view that people have of people who are part of the FIRE movement, I don't subscribe to it. I don't subscribe to being a super frugal person. And I don't think you have to be. I think you have a choice. You have the choice of, slashing down all your expenses all the time and figuring out ways to be cheaper and cheaper. Or you have the choice of figuring out ways to increase your income so that you can save more. And it's a balancing act. So I'm not stupid. I'm not going to just spend a crazy amount of money for no reason. But that's not really where my focus is. My focus really is on increasing that income so that I'm able to save more money to reach my goal. The third point, which could be controversial, is owning a home. And this is something that I've always wanted to do, but I also think it is a really important step for people who are looking to achieve financial independence. And a lot of people don't agree with this. They, will say renting is perfectly fine. But I'm going to explain why renting is not perfectly fine for me. Because where I live in the UK, renting and paying a mortgage are pretty much one for one. In fact, renting sometimes is more expensive than paying a mortgage. But the only difference is when you are paying for a mortgage, you are technically pocketing some of that money every single month back to yourself. With renting, you frequently hear the phrase, oh, you're paying someone else's mortgage. And people hate that, but that's what you're doing. You're paying somebody else's mortgage, which is fine if that's what you're aiming for. But I think, if you're looking to reach financial independence, it is a good thing to try to do. I'm not trying to say it's something that's super easy to achieve. It really isn't, especially if you live in the south or the southeast of England. But I think it is something that should be at least aimed for, because it does help you on your journey to, keep more of your money for yourself and give a bit less money out to somebody else. The fourth thing that I'm doing is having a fairly high savings rate. So it's not as high as some of the other FIRE people who are saving 40, 50, 60% of their income. And that's probably because they are able to be super frugal. And as I said before, that's not really me. And I have to be true to myself and what I want out of life. But a high savings rate of 30% is what I am working towards. So I'm not quite there. I'm very, very nearly there, but I'm not quite there yet. And basically, by saving 30% of our income every month, that means that my husband and I are able to live off of 70% of our income, which is a good practice to get into, to just live within our means. But it also means that we're able to stash a good amount of money away every month into our investments. And if we are able to do this over the next, again, 13, 14 years, then we will hopefully have a good sized pot, as I mentioned earlier, by the time we are in our early to mid 40s. And last but not least, the fifth thing that I am doing is prioritizing my spending. So what I mean by that is prioritizing what's important and what's not so important. The reality is you can't have it all. There are certain things that have to be sacrificed a little and other things that, you're not willing to sacrifice on. So for me, for instance, traveling is something that I'm really passionate about, that I really love, that really improves the quality of my life. And so it's something that I'm willing to spend money on because it means so much to me. And so budgeting for traveling is something that I will always do because it's important to me. Whereas, I'm not somebody who buys clothes very often. I don't go shopping every month. Or even every other month. But my point is, it's not something that is a huge priority for me. I buy things as I need them. I'm not somebody who, just enjoys shopping for the sake of it, per se. So, it's prioritizing what's really important to me versus what's not so important to me, putting my money towards the things that are really going to bring me joy and happiness, and putting less of my money towards things that don't really matter and seem a bit more trivial to me. So with budgeting, you're able to do that. So in my spreadsheet, I'm able to really see the things that I prioritize because, you know, outside of bills, you start to see the percentages, like what proportion of your income do certain activities take up. And it gives you an idea of what you prioritize in your life. And so that is a good thing to do. It's good to be clear on what's important to you and what's going to take more of your money and what's not so important to you, and, you know, could maybe have a little less money in the budget for that. And I want to also really make a point to say that even though I have a goal that is more than a decade away from where I am right now, I am definitely feeling the effects of good financial management right now. And, you know, it's not just about that end goal, it's about the here and now and what you're experiencing, the type of life you have, the quality of life, and how you feel, your relationship with money. And I can say that being on this journey, I have significantly improved my relationship with money. I have a better quality of life. My financial security is higher than it has ever been before in my life. And I just feel really hopeful about the future. So even though we're talking about the goal, I'm really feeling the impacts now. And this is what I really love about this FIRE movement. It receives a lot of criticism, but I personally think that's because there's such a lack of understanding of what it really means. And there's also people who criticize it see it very tunnel visioned, and they don't see that there are so many options for people who are looking to reach financial independence. It doesn't mean people are lazy. It doesn't mean they just want to sit on the beach all day in their 30s or 40s. It just means they want freedom of their time. And who does not want that? Everybody wants that. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've really spoken from my heart and, you know, made a few points, but I really wanted to make sure that I gave a newish update video on what my plan is in terms of financial independence. I hope it's inspired you, perhaps encouraged you. Financial independence may not be the thing that you aim for. Maybe you just want to be financially secure. And if that is the case, that is amazing in itself. But, you know, these types of videos just show you the types of things that you can do to be financially secure, the types of habits that you can do to help you on your way to financial peace. So if you have liked this video, please do hit that like button. It's really appreciated. It lets me know that people are enjoying these videos, which is really rewarding to see. And if you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. It's also another great support for my channel, and it's helping my channel to grow and get out to more people who just want a bit of encouragement along their financial journeys. So that will be it today. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video real soon.